Goatworm here, and I got into Magic the Gathering, and I finished my first deck that I built from scratch here, and it's a goat deck. So I like to share it here and kind of get you guys' opinions on some card changes I can make to make it better. Starting off with the commander, I have Morophon the Boundless here to make my goats cheaper to cast, as well as give them +1/+1. Next, moving on to my goats here. Starting off with my green ones, I have Pathbreaker Ibex, Capricopian, and Flopsie, Bumi's buddy. I think the best one out of these would be the Pathbreaker Ibex. Gives everything +X until end of turn, and as well as trample. My Hydra here will let me play a little mini game between players, and then Flopsie gives everything a +1/+1 counter when it enters. Moving on with my white goats here. Got Possessed Goat, Caprichrome, Thriving Ibex, Landscaper Kalos, and Wildstorm Crapidor. Moving on to my red ones here. I have Battering Craghorn, Frantic Scapegoat, Mountain Goat, and Zodiac Goat. A lot of these ones have just like the Mountain Walk, First Strike, and Haste and Suspect. There are 3 other cards I have in here as well that everything I looked up said they're goats, but their card says beast here. And that would be the Crested Craghorn, Wild Kalos, and Colos Yearling. Again, some Haste and Mountain Walk as well. And then finally, I have just the one black goat here, which is the Off-Nab goat from one of the more recent releases here. Moving on to my other creatures that aren't really goats. So I do have 2 shapeshifters, Omni Changeling as well as Realm Walker to help me pull out some of my goats from the top of my deck. And then my Changeling here will help me, or can copy any of the goats any other goats that are on the field. Next are some cards that produce goats when they enter or while they're on the field. Being Clackbridge Troll enters, gives an opponent 3 goats. Wolfstrider, when Wolfstrider enters, I create a goat token. And then Discordant Piper, when it dies, I create a goat token. And then Springjack Shepherd, when it enters, I create goats equal to the amount of white colors on the field I have. These 2, I can go into an infinite combo to create infinite goats on my side of the battlefield. And then moving on to the rest of some of my creatures here. These next ones have goats in the art. Starting off with Axgard Cavalry, Goatnapper, and Cloudgoat Ranger. And with Cloudgoat Ranger, I can go into a combo to create infinite soldier creature tokens. I also have Rustspore Ram. I feel like that was close to a goat, so I also threw that in here as well. these next creature cards I have here are cards that help me go into that infinite combos, being Eldrazi Displacer and Crafty Cutpurse. Moving on to my artifacts. I have Trading Post, help me create some goat tokens. And then I have a few cards that will help me because I'm using a lot of goats, being Patchwork Banner, Vanquish Banner, and Herald's Horn. Since I'm using a lot of the same creature type, these will help me get some extra benefits there. Moving on to my other artifacts, I have Horn of the Mark, to get some bonuses when 2 or more creatures are attacking. Ashnod's Altar helps with that infinite combo I was talking about. Chromatic Lantern, since I'm running a 5-color deck, that will be helpful getting as much color as I can. Your General Soul Ring and Arcane Signet. And then I also have Commander Sphere, just to help me get any of the 5 colors that I need. Moving on to my enchantments here. For my green enchantments, I have Leyline of Mutation. Mix this in with my commander Morophon. I can basically cast goats for free. And I also have Song of Freyalise to help get more mana, as well as +1/+1 counters and some extra stuff for once I've built up my board. I have one white enchantment here, being Reconnaissance. Basically gives my creatures vigilance. And moving on to my red enchantments, I have Rise of the Day to give all my creatures haste, as well as my legendary creatures up +1/+0. For my blue, I have Leyline of Transmutation. For my creatures that aren't quite goats, this lets me change them all into goats. I have Phantom Wings. It has a goat on there. Gives a creature of my choice flying, as well as I can return to my hand. And then I also have Kindred Discovery and Reflections of Lijara to get some bonuses for casting goats. Moving on to my instance and sorceries. My green instants are Bite Down, Run Over, and then Sundering Growth, just to help with some removal. I also have, and then going into my green or my white, I have Contraband Livestock and Swords of Plowshare. Basically just a bunch of removal while I set up my goats. Now for my sorceries. For my red sorceries, I have, of course, Goatnap. Basically lets me steal a creature. If that creature is a goat, it gets a +3/+0 until the end of turn. I feel like it's very fitting, it being a goat deck. And then for my green Sun's Twilight helps me get some lands and a creature. Adventurous Impulse, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Animist Awakening, Boundless Realms, Rampant Growth, Open the Way, just a bunch of ramp cards here. And then I do have a Primal Command. There we go. A Primal Command lets me gain some life, tutors, adds cards to my library. And then finally for my black sorcery cards, I have a tutor and victimize to pull anything from my graveyard as well. There are all of my permanent or my creatures, spell and sorceries and instants. Moving on to the land, I have 3 of each type of land. Then I have Terramorphic Expanse and Escape Tunnel, Evolving Wilds, and Mydrid Landscape to help fetch some more lands, narrow down my deck a little bit. Moving on to my non-basic, some more of my non-basic lands. I have Shifting Woodlands, Man Tower, Exotic Orchard, Path of Ancestry to get some scry off the goats. These will just help me get more color diversity since I am running 5 colors. Moving on to my goat-based lands, I have Springjack Pasture, just one mana to my pool, or I can create some goats or sacrifice goats and gain life and mana. I also have Animal Sanctuary, which will add 1 general or colorless mana, and then I can also put some counters on my goats. I also have Rogue's Passage, just general or colorless mana, as well as make one of my creatures unblockable. So finally moving into my multicolor cards here. I have Rootbound Crag, Cinder Glade, and Gruul Turf for red and green. Those I feel like are my more abundant for at least my goats. Green also helping me pull out the Pathbreaker Ibex to do some heavier damage with my goats. I also have Boiling Rock Prison for my black and red. And then to round off with my green, I have green and white with Graypelt Refuge and Blossoming Sands. So I do have a lot of whites as well. And then Serpent's Pass for my blue and black. And then finally, I have some 3-colored lands, Savage Lands, Rift's Grove, and Jungle Shrine to help give me a little bit more of the diversity there. Thank you guys for, actually, I have 3 cards that I did get because they have goats in them that I couldn't really find some space in the deck for, being Hill Giant, Herd Gorger, Stone Giant, and Goblin Cavaliers. And that is my entire deck here. Thank you guys for watching. In the comments, please leave some suggestions on how to improve this deck here. I would like to try and keep as many goats as possible in this deck. And I will upload a different video here going over my infinite combos here if you guys are interested. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next time.